I have failed so many more times than I have succeeded. What that has taught me, though, as well, is that if my heart continues to be in something after the obstacles and after the resistance and after the time has gone by when it hasn't happened, if my heart's still in it, it's gonna happen.
Welcome to another episode of Builder365, the podcast where we talk about all things home building. And I'm so excited. We had such a great time with trainer extraordinaire Michelle Mindy last time that we've asked her to come back on. So thank you for being here, Michelle.
Well, it's wonderful to be here, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I know it's at the end of a long week, so I appreciate you taking some time. And, Michelle, I don't know about you, but a question that I get asked a lot is, what is your recommended reading list? And actually, I got so tired of asking, I just put together one and I'm just like, I'll just email it out now. But I'm curious, you're an avid reader as well. What's on your shelf right now, or what's on your nightstand? What would you recommend for our audience?
Well, I tell you what, I have read this book over and over again, but it's one that I do recommend, and I have it here. It's Culture Crossing by Michael Landers. And I don't know if you can see this, but I've got lots of pages folded. I've got highlights galore. It's really just a chock full of great information and really just all about giving every customer an exceptional experience. So it would be one that I would recommend reading for sure.
Well, it's a good one. I mean, it's definitely a topic that comes up a lot in our industry, and, we're only seeing more and more diversity. So, having those effective conversations is going to be really, really important. So that's a really good one. I hear people dropping it into their Amazon cart as we speak. So thank you for that, Michelle. That's a good one. Before we bring on our guest, let me tell you that Builder365 is powered by Open Door for Builders. Easy sales, smooth moves. With an open door cash offer, buyers can give their customers a simple and certain selling solution so they can get into their new home with speed and ease. Customers can close in as little as 14 days and move on their schedule. No stress, no hassle, and completely seamless. Open Door's flexible closing timelines help to provide builder customers with a better moving experience so they don't need to worry about construction delays, double moves, or mortgages. Gone are the days of stagings and showings and making repairs. Open Door will do all the hard work so your customers can sell quickly. You can create your own personal link through Open Door, which your customers can use to get a free offer. Once they decide to sell to Open Door, you can track the progress of the sale of their home while helping them get into their newly built home on their ideal timeline. Get started today at opendoor.com/builder365. Well, Michelle, I know we always like to spend a couple of minutes talking about what's going on in the industry. And I don't know about you, but the teams that I'm working with right now, one of the hot topics is it a good time to buy? And, we have to not only think about that from a mindset perspective, but also from a technique perspective. And I've been challenging sales leaders, right? Where's the mindset of their salespeople right now? And if a buyer were to walk in and say, is it a good time to buy? Could we give them a strong why buy now message immediately? So I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's a good time to buy? What should we be doing or thinking about with a why buy now message? What advice do you have for our listeners?
Well, yes, it's an absolute wonderful time to buy a home. It's always a great time to buy a home because the number one reason people should make a move is to be in the right home. So it doesn't really matter what's happening in the market. It really just matters what's happening in the buyer's life, right? And the good news is, look, buyers are coming in our doors, so they have a need, they have a want. And so really the only thing that's missing for our buyers right now is confidence. And so that confidence, as new home sales professionals, we're going to have to give our buyers that confidence they need. So you're spot on correct, Amy. As always, our teams need to have that solid why buy now message because the buyers are looking at their facial posture, their body language, the tonality, the energy, right? And boy, we have to be able to respond very confidently. So I love the challenge to salespeople out there everywhere. What's your response to that?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what that's what I tell salespeople. I'm like, listen, and I don't think this is ever going to happen, but if it did, and a buyer walked straight into you and said, is it a good time to buy? And if you can't look back at them with no hesitation and go, here's why it's a good time to buy, bam, bam, bam. If we don't know it that quickly and we can't say it that condensed, we don't know it well enough. What do you think?
I agree. I think one of the things that we could also do is, early on in the process is to give the buyers confidence by just maybe even giving them a compliment as to how smart they are for recognizing that now is a great time to buy a home. And it is, because it's really like that perfect storm right now, Amy, don't you think? With the interest rate starting to go down, and even talk that they're going to go down perhaps even more, but yet prices haven't gone up, and we still have some great incentives that buyers can take advantage of. But we all know that if we see a repeat where rates go down significant enough, I mean, there's going to be a surge of buyers. More demand means higher prices, incentives go away. So it really is the perfect storm.
I agree. And I mean, I truly believe that at my core, right? I'm not just saying that
Right.
because it's maybe what I'm supposed to say. I mean, I would tell my mom, my best friend, my butcher. I don't have a butcher. I don't even know where that came from. I don't butcher meat. It's already packaged in the grocery store. I don't butcher anything. But anyway, if I did have a butcher, I would tell her that it's a great time to buy. And I really, for all the reasons that you just said, I think what's also interesting about the Why Buy Now message, it's not just to convince them, but it's to give them a soundtrack for other people who say, you did what? You bought are you an idiot? Do you
Right.
know what's happening with pricing and interest rates and all the muck we're seeing out there in the headlines? And so you have these people who buy a home and they're almost embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like they don't want to tell people. So I love that the Why Buy Now message not only gives them permission to buy, but gives them a talking track when other people show maybe some discouragement in their decision. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the overwhelming consensus from family, friends, coworkers, news, social media, right, is don't do it. You'd be
Yeah.
crazy to buy a home now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they need that strength, that confidence.
Yeah.
And so we have to be that confidence for them. They need to be able to adapt our confidence.
That's right. Confidence transfers, we know that, and you can either build their confidence or you can deteriorate their confidence, but it's going to go one or two different ways, and that's going to depend on us. In the past, we have really looked to the market to give our buyers confidence, but when the market's not doing it, this is where we step up. This is where we earn our money. All right, well, I think you and I are on the same page about that. It's a good time to buy, everyone. Tell all your friends it's a good time to buy, and then give them the support to be able to defend that decision if they need to. Well, listen, before Jeff left on his sabbatical, he interviewed Jim Adams. Michelle, have you ever had the pleasure of meeting Jim?
I have not. Had the pleasure, but what a phenomenal interview.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just so amazing. He's the founder of New Homes Directory. I mean, definitely a pioneer in the home building industry, and just a really cool guy who just comes at life in a different way. I got to tell you, everyone, I think this is going to end up being one of your favorites. Take a listen, and then we'll see you in just a couple minutes.
Well, it's always good to talk to friends. One of the reasons why I wanted to relaunch the podcast here was to talk to friends. And, every now and then you meet somebody in your life where you just feel like there's just such a deep connection. You can talk about anything. Nothing is off limits. They're very real conversations. That's how I feel about my friend Jim Adams, who I've known for many, many years. Jim is the founder of newhomesdirectory.com. And, I don't remember that old commercial about the most interesting man in the world. Well, Jim Adams is truly the most interesting man in the world. So Jim, I look forward to just sitting down and have a little chat. What I want to do here is just to start, especially for those who are watching who have kind of an entrepreneurial bent, take us back to the start of your company, because you were really the first in the dance when it came to online searches for new homes. I'm curious about the foresight that went into that. You had to see something that was not visible to most people, which I think is true for most entrepreneurs. So take us back to the beginning, buddy.
Well, I'm sure like most people, especially when you're young, things happen by accident. You don't know why they happen. And the forming of the company and the uniqueness of it at the time wasn't the accident. What the accident was is me discovering sort of a manifestation process. Because before that, what had happened is I was just really at the beginning of my career, and I was trying to figure out, what do I want to do with my life? And not just what, but how do I want work to be in my life? I wasn't going to be a cubicle person. I kind of had an idea, but not exactly. And so I can still remember this day in our house on Diamond Drive in Chula. I had a piece of paper and I wrote down my ideal, if I could just choose how work would be for me. And I just started writing them all down, meaning things like, I would like to have a company where I didn't have to be physically present to make money. So that kind of, computer of some sort. I would like to have something where I felt like there wasn't a ceiling on the revenue or potential. I would like to be able to work from anywhere, because I, hadn't done any traveling, but I, wanted to travel. So I just started listing all these things down, of it, almost like a vision board of how I wanted my work to be. And I had no idea of New Homes Directory at the time.
But that's interesting to me, because for most people, they would look at it and they would go, well, if you're going to set down a goal, goal clarity has to be there. This is what the company's going to look like. This is, we're going to build the vision of what I'm looking at from the top of the mountain here, and then work backwards from there. But your approach is a little bit more of, no, I want to build the vision of what I want my life to look like, and then I'll let my company supply the end to that vision, right? That's a better way to look at it.
Yeah. And you know what? And that's why I don't use the title CEO. I'm not a CEO. I do not run a corporation. I don't run a business. Right. The business is my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that it turned out to be something significant enough. And that's why I'm not a great business leader, in a sense that, having the weekly reviews and what's the revenue, what's the cancellations, that's not me. So it was, but what happened was there was an awareness. So this didn't happen right away. So I had this list down, and it was almost just like the list was just sitting there. I kind of forgot about it, but in doing my other work, it just came into my awareness one day when I did some searches, that the searches that in the new home industry, when you did a search for new homes, anything, it was all real estate agent websites. And because my wife and mother-in-law worked in the new construction industry, I was like, oh my God, there it is. Because I was already in real estate. So I already had a real estate website, and I was kind of aware of the searches. But so it was more, I think, the process of trying to figure out what my heart really wanted. My awareness opened up to some opportunity that ultimately led to this very day. And it's still the same to this very day. That process works has worked for multiple aspects of my life.
So there is that side of things that says, as Thomas Carlyle once said, go as far as you can see. When you get there, you'll always be able to see further. We don't need to know exactly what the end goal is going to be before we walk through the door.
Yeah.
But there is that point where you just sort of figure it out. Like you the first time you heard the letters SEO, you heard those letters a lot earlier than we heard those letters, right? Because you were pioneering along those lines. But I also think that with entrepreneurs, they get to a point where they go, there's a vacancy in the market. There's a hole in the market. Like for me, I had read Dave Stone's book, New Home Sales, back in, I don't know, in the late 1980s. But when the market totally tanked in 2007, 2008, that's when I wrote Tough Market New Home Sales and became that expert on what happens when things are not going well and you have to dig it out. And so I had already stepped into that role of the consultant or the trainer guy, but I was kind of feeling my way around until I said, okay, this is my lane. What happens in a tough market? So it looks like you did the same thing, where you looked at and you said, I know I've got some technical capabilities. I know I've got some real estate capabilities. Now everything just sort of aligns and says, okay, that's the opportunity. That's the door. I'm going to walk through it. But you were still walking into an undiscovered forest at that point. I mean, SEO was not a thing when you started.
Well, and you're the same way. I remember, I mean, you start out as KB, right? And then now
Yeah,
you have blossomed into this, the icon, the goal that we're shooting for as far as a profession goes. But the same thing. So SEO was a funny thing because my blessing was nobody knew about it. So I'm just kind of like a little mad scientist, in my office, messing around with things that really had no consequence yet. There was nobody there to tell me anything. I was just discovering. But, like your profession, there are certain things that keep driving you harder. One is that there's some kind of natural interest, right? I'm just naturally interested. Why I was kind of the SEO, because it's really a bunch of math equations. Why I like that, I have no idea. But the thing is once I started getting into it, I started affecting change. I could alter the search results, and that was stimulating, right? And I'm sure the same with you. Once you start stepping out, it's like, I kind of like this. I like teaching. I like instructing. I like helping people. I like inspiring people. You start doing that, and then you see the change that it has, and there's this feedback loop that's like, it feeds the heart, and then you just keep going and you keep going and you keep going, and that fulfillment and satisfaction of the heart that I'm finding a place for myself. I'm good at something, but you have to be able to see a change in some way. There has to be some kind of feedback, whether it's feedback on a Google search result or feedback from people. And that just kind of feeds the path of, the heart, I think.
One of the things that I suspect you and I have in common is that when we see people who are working only for the paycheck, hating their life, it's a drudgery to sort of stumble across the finish line at the end of the week. And I think you and I look at people like that with a blend of pity and disgust, right? I mean, I get it. Some people, need to dig ditches to put food on the table. I get that. But you and I, we sometimes look at very, very talented people who could be doing something different, and they become sort of locked in and enslaved. And I think that this is one of the things that makes it interesting when I look at you, because you're a hard guy to pin down by way of definition. How would you define yourself? Are you a techno nerd? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you
I really
psychologist?
wouldn't have been able to answer that question if you hadn't sent it to me ahead of time, because I don't even know. I don't. And it's hard to be whatever the definition of leader is for you. For me, it's hard because I'm sort of identityless, because I'm changing a lot, whatever. But after really thinking about it, I can't answer that question. What am I? I'm a child. I am a child on a playground. That's what life feels like to me, is I'm curious and I love to play. I want to talk to people that have great conversations, that talk from the heart. I will follow my heart without logic. So I really am a child more than anything. And I love to learn. So I love the student part of life. I never get tired of sitting at the feet of somebody that I can learn something from. That's a goofy answer, but it's the most honest, heartfelt answer.
No, it's good. I often, it's true. I often tell people life is a buffet and I want to die full. Right. Let's try a lot of different things. We are not people, you and me, easily given to ruts. I'm going to talk about goal setting and goal clarity here. You're a goal-driven person from the perspective that when you get your mind set on something, you're just going to go for it. And one of the things that's different about you than a lot of people that I've met is that oftentimes we don't want to put ourselves out there. There are too many people out there that say it can't be done. And, I think about, Tim Ferriss saying that most people don't have the guts to aim big, so they aim for the mediocre. And the weird irony there is that it's a crowded field in the world of mediocrity, right? And so can you talk a little bit about your approach when you set your mind on something? And over the years, I've known you said, okay, I want I'm going to learn Italian. I'm going to learn how to slam dunk a basketball, whatever it is that you wanted to do. You didn't sit around and take a lot of stock in the people who told you it couldn't be done.
Yeah,
You just
you know
said,
what? I
screw it,
think
I'm going to do it anyway.
that's the child in me. It really is. Because you see a 7-year-old on a playground,
Yeah. Yeah.
and a healthy kid that age, they just want to go play. They want to do it. They can
Yeah.
brush off the
Right.
snidey
Yeah.
kid because they have just such a hunger to play.
I just interrupted. Jerry Seinfeld says that you look at a kid
Right.
on the playground, Superman, Batman, these aren't fantasies.
I
These
love
are
that.
options. Right?
That is great.
This is
That
who
is
I'm going to
great.
be.
But
one
I
day.
mean, the child part's the beginning of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know how life is when life is not just, you're just
Yeah.
not going to meet your goals. Yeah.
All right. So the question was
the
about
way that I
goal
set goals
acuity,
is a
and
lot
you can take
different
it from there.
after 25 years of working. I always believe in what I see. I just do. I believe it strongly. I really, really believe it. And so every goal that I have, I see it and I believe it and I go for it as if it's going to happen. What has been over 25 years of setting goals and going and believing is only a small fraction of those things happen. The big ones. I would have a goal and believe it and go, and then I would fail. It wouldn't work. I have failed so many more times than I have succeeded. What that has taught me, though, as well, is that if my heart continues to be in something after the obstacles and after the resistance and after the time has gone by when it hasn't happened, if my heart's still in it, it's going to happen. But if my heart's, I usually give myself 3 years for a goal. And if it hasn't happened in 3 years, then I stop with it, unless it's because your heart can't be in 20 things 100% every day, right? You only have so much space. So my heart really is the defining thing on whether I go forward. But it's like the football thing. When I wanted to be a kicker and I really believed I could kick the ball on a professional level, at 3 years, it just wasn't happening. And of course, I'm getting older, things like that. But so that's changed about, how to set a goal. I'm less likely to set a goal today without really contemplating. Whereas 20 years ago, I'd be like, because I'm still discovering. I'm going for it. So I fail. Now it's like,
just go for it. You're young, you're fearless, you can't lose. But I have to admit that even to this day, I want to be a fly on the wall for conversations that you and April have when suddenly you go, what I want to do? I want to open a Mongolian Indian fusion restaurant.
And the thing is, she knows
I can almost picture April rolling her eyes.
She knows when I'm really onto something. And you know what? It's almost like a migraine waiting to happen because the energy is just flowing so hard. So, but I've learned to tailor that and give it time to see does this really matter to me, right? Because my ideas are amazing, but only to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Right. But then the other question is with time is to ask, did the passion last? Right. It's like for me, I'm at the point now where, like recently, I picked up, I rented a saxophone and I started to take some saxophone lessons. I love the instrument and I just wanted to get a sense of it. Well, I didn't have the time to practice that I wanted to. Right. So I only gave it 90 days and I went, I don't have the time. And so I'm going to set this aside. But I've been thinking about trying the saxophone for years. And there's something about that marinating process, that mental marination, to bring you to the point of saying, is this something that I want to do? Because if the passion isn't there, kind of why do it anyway, right?
You sort of said, really the core of all this is what's in your heart. I mean, if we're just responding and reacting to the outside world about, oh, this is shiny, that's shiny, oh, this would be a good idea, a lot of times they're just going to go in different directions. But I mean, if you can become aware of what's really going on right here, that's going to be true most of the time. And I know that you know that. And you know what? And if your heart is still talking to you in a certain amount of time on the sax, you'll be back to it.
Yeah, I'll be back to it. Sure. Yeah, well, I'm coming up on a sabbatical. Maybe I pick up the sax again. Uh, well, but I think one of the things here that we have to look at, and even advice for people who are listening right now, is that it's difficult to listen for your heart if your heart is already occupied on something that doesn't matter that much, but it's still wrapped up. And I think there are a lot of people who spend a lot of time in their career over a long period of time doing something they don't necessarily enjoy, simply because there's a fear. Jim, obviously the whole world is talking about AI. You can't go anywhere without talking about AI. When you look at it, do you look at it as something that excites you, scares you, it's overhyped? Just give us the Jim Adams philosophy of AI these days.
Well, I think that AI today is where Google was in 1999. I really do. This is the next thing. I mean, I don't even Google things anymore. I chat GPT it. There's there's an amazing AI search thing called perplexity.ai, because you don't have to. AI has such an amazing ability to summarize and highlight patterns and the important points from all these resources. So it's going to be an amazing thing, and that's just on the information producing end. But the stuff that now you can make avatars of yourself. You can clone your voice, and now you can type up what you wanted to say. All the things that, whether it's some kind of marketer or a personality, which, we all are trying to have personalities, right? So that we can get business, so that people can understand who we are. But gosh, you don't have to, so you can throw your picture and you can get headshots done of you, 100 beautiful headshots, like real estate agent headshots. You can clone your voice. That person will talk your voice in your writing. So you don't have to look great anymore. You're going to look better than you do in real life. You don't have to worry about stumbling through words because you can type something up. It can say this. I don't know. Do you have any experience with that portion of AI? Because that's right in your business.
I mean, we're all over it. We're looking at it in our organization to see how do we use it. We've always sort of looked at it and said, we'll let other people go out there on the way cutting edge, and then we'll follow into the pattern of the people who are figuring it out early on. So we like to think of ourselves more as early adopters than as innovators. But it's happening so fast that we know we can't get left behind. So it is. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what to expect, Jim. I think that it's going to be radical transformation, and we're gonna have to. It's going to force itself upon us whether we want it to or not. Jim Adams, the time went by too fast because we can talk forever. You know that. I've enjoyed the friendship and the conversations, and you're so inspirational to me, and just really appreciate any opportunity. Thanks for all you do at newhomesdirectory.com, and really curious about to see where life takes you next. So I'll always be following your story, my friend.
Michelle, I don't know about you, but again, like I said, I could just listen to that one over and over and over. I love what he was talking about with his goals and how he sets these goals, but then he gives himself a timeline, right? If I haven't done this, maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's not going to happen, and maybe I need to do something else. And then him talking about just the heart, right? How he leads with his heart and how he does things through feelings. Just what a refreshing angle for an entrepreneur to come on and really talk about leading from the heart. Thoughts?
Well, listen, I love that. And I totally agree with Jeff in the introduction, saying that this is one of the most interesting men in the world. I mean, really, just really down to earth, humble. And I love the fact that he's got that childlike curiosity, and and he gives himself permission. Amy talks about how he just makes mistakes, and it's okay. That's part of it. Yeah. And what a really phenomenal individual and great interview.
I know. I'm a little disappointed though that we don't have any video footage of him trying to kick the field goal, right? We need some visual evidence on how that looked, right? I don't think he made it, but I'd like to see that process. Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you again for joining us on another episode of Builder365. Michelle, can you end us with a quote? What's your best go-to quote?
Listen, easy equals right.
Yes. Yes, 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 it does. Easy equals right, everyone. Keep it easy. That also feels right. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.